At the start of the new century, America played a big role in international politics, and it had military bases across the world. George Bush became president at the start of 2001 and spent his first months in office meeting other countries' leaders. To them, he was now in charge of the world's most influential nation. Meanwhile, American culture could be seen in the daily lives of people across the planet. A comedy show called Friends was being shown on TV channels all over the world. US musicians were selling millions of albums, and American-made films dominated cinemas. Nowhere showed America's global importance more than New York City. It was home to many of those musicians and TV shows, and huge businesses like banks and international organisations had headquarters there. At the centre of New York were the enormous Twin Towers. The buildings were 110 stories high, and thousands of people worked in the offices. Al-Qaeda is an Islamist extremist group who blamed America for many of the world's problems. They had twisted beliefs which they used to justify violent attacks. In 1998, the group began to plan an attack known as the Planes Attack. By the year 2000, terrorists had made their way into the United States. US officials knew the group were targeting their country, but didn't know where. They were taken by surprise when the well-organised attack finally happened. On Tuesday, September the 11th, 2001, Al-Qaeda's terrible plan was carried out. 4 teams of terrorists took control of 4 flights shortly after they'd taken off. The terrorists had been trained to fly planes. 2 were crashed into the enormous Twin Towers in New York, and 1 into the Pentagon, which is the home of America's military in Washington, D.C. The 4th flight crashed after its passengers fought back and took action to prevent the plane reaching its target. In New York, the 2 towers collapsed following the attack. Debris was found almost 3 miles away. 3,000 people died in the attacks, including several hundred emergency workers who raced to help. US President George Bush addressed the nation on the evening of the attacks. Part of his address said,
"Today our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature, and we responded with the best of America."
The attacks led to President Bush declaring a war on terror. America and its allies, including the UK, promised to hunt down the leaders of Al-Qaeda and bring them to justice. 20 years ago, the group called the Taliban were in charge of Afghanistan, and they allowed Al-Qaeda to operate there. So in October 2001, the US and the UK invaded Afghanistan to try and destroy Al-Qaeda and remove the Taliban from power.